Did you guys watch the fighting game roundtable at all? I got this tweet that right here that said you're looking at Micro at Sajam, no audio. And I was like, well, what can you do, huh? To be fair, there was no audio from me. That's true. There was no audio from me. Fighting game developer roundtable happened. I don't know if you guys tuned in and checked it out. I was not there. It was Giuna and Michael Murray. They were doing the, like, you know, English translation. It was bad. The audio didn't work for like 30 minutes, apparently. You know, the best part is I didn't see any of it. It's a Japanese production, right? So I was like, okay, I don't have to watch the first like 45 minutes. Nothing happens for like hours at a time. It takes them so long to do anything. It turns out that not only did nothing happen, but there was no English. So I show up and I'm like, Ty, this whole time, everything's been fucked up. They finally got the English going. Let's go. And the first thing that happens is the topic was like online connectivity. And you're like, okay, this has got to be about rollback, right? And then Giuna says like, yeah, you know, blah, blah, blah. Well, can't really talk about this rollback stuff, you know, but he got to translate it because like specifically ASW were talking about their rollback and how great it was. And like they brought up GGPO and everybody else was looking around like, he was like on the ropes, you know. He's like, I can't say the word rollback, but he said rollback, so I can translate it. And it's just like, there's only one thing that you can do to make people happy on this. And they're going to yell at you until you talk about it. And it's rollback. It's obvious. It is the one thing that people have been yelling at them to talk about since before the last roundtable, since after the last roundtable was over. They just want them to talk about it, right? And just say it. That's all that they want. And doing anything else is just pissing people off. I knew better. I knew that this roundtable was coming up. People asked me, are you excited? I said, no. Like, I saw Giuna and other people saying, the first one was so good. Like, this roundtable was so insightful. And I was like, bro, it must cut you a nice check or something. I don't know what's going on over there. I don't know how the first one was insightful or interesting in the slightest. Like, they were like, we should have an AI that's good at beating people and learning. And they were like, why didn't we think of that? That's genius. I was like, it's already in like 4 fighting games. It's already been done like 4 times. There was a couple of things that happened in the panel that were interesting for the most part. For one, a lot of people can't tell white people apart. Second thing is that they said that Strive will have a Wi-Fi indicator. I thought that was an interesting thing to announce on the panel. Like, obviously, this came up during online connectivity because Wi-Fi was the topic. Arc System Works is like, hey, this is our rollback. This is how it works. This is great. Everybody else is like Ixnay on the old back ray. And then they were like, okay, we also have this Wi-Fi indicator. And then Odo was like, yes, Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is, yeah, we got to talk about Wi-Fi. The fact that he went back to Wi-Fi after that, everybody was like, uh-oh, he's ducking the question. And then somebody, who was it that said like, oh yeah, Wi-Fi can be better than LAN cables sometimes. Like, you know, people play on Wi-Fi. It's cool, man. And then Michael Murray and Giuna on like translation where it's like, I don't know about all this. Imagine if you're them and there's just like 40 minutes of blowups happening and like it feels really bad and like everything's all fucked up. And then the English audio and like everything comes back and they finally get to translate and like one of the first things they hear is, oh, well, you know, Wi-Fi could be better than LAN cables. And they're like, oh god, here we go. They also announced the Eno trailer, which was cool. Then there was the Tekken teaser, I should say. All right, there you go. She's the PM of Poland. There was also a Fexel teaser. There was a Sam Show trailer. They announced that there was going to be a Guilty Gear character in Samurai Showdown, and people were pissed. They were like, what the fuck? You're putting a character from a game you can play online into a game you can't even play online. They like were yelling because they didn't talk about rollback in it. So like, you know, it was a whole deal. I think that is an interesting thought though. Like Guilty Gear has plenty of characters that are like samurai-ish that could fit in, right? Like people said obviously Nagoriyuki is a good one, but Baiken, right? People said like Johnny. Dude, I hope Elfeld shows up with a shotgun and just fucking shoots them all. That would be hilarious. Give Samurai Showdown Elfeld. They deserve her. The entire panel, everybody was just like, say the line, Bart, and they didn't say it. In fact, even when rollback got brought up, first of all, everybody looked like it was like someone cursed in front of the teacher. But then second of all, they all just were like, Wi-Fi, am I right, guys? And they slapped their knees, right? They're just like, oof, Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is sick. And everybody's like, no, it's not. And they're like, oh, all right, well, here's our trailer. And you're just like, what? I think these roundtables are whack. I've got to be honest with you. They should hire a real streaming company to do it. That was dog shit. And they should find some cool topics to talk about and actually talk about them for MechLord. I really don't understand the appeal. I feel like the announcements are cool that they're doing them all together. Like, I like that idea. The only other interesting thing that I heard the entire time was that they wanted to do a tournament with all of the developers in one place. Like, they talked about that, and that was cool. That was like a 20-second conversation, but it's already something that they've talked about in the last one and they've talked about before. And like, it can't even happen. Like, when is that tournament going to happen? We already all know that the developers, like, what they think we care about is probably not what we care about in these cases, right? For a lot of these Japanese companies. And like, when you have them all sit down and they're like, what's the most important thing to talk about right now? The cutting edge thing in our community. This is what we should talk about. And everybody's watching it like, what the fuck?
Listen.
That was the other thing I liked about this weekend as well, is that Capcom Cup, you know, they were like, we can't have this guy Sajam here. Capcom historically is a big fan of functions. When they were like, what's our Sajam function? They're like, Brian F, no problem. They'll never notice, right? Who needs Wolverine and the X-Men when you have the Sajam function right there? I saw it and I was like, you know what? Genius. They're way smarter than I expected.